Good afternoon, everyone. We'll give it just a second and we will get started. All right. Thanks so much for joining us today. I hope you all had an easier time getting into the meeting than last time. And we again send our apologies for the technical difficulties, but we are thrilled that you are here today. And we are thrilled to hear from John Rivas from ENCORE Ministry, the Executive Director. Just a few reminders and announcements before we get started. We are excited to be here, and we're recording today as per usual. And just a reminder to keep your microphones on mute until you have a question or a comment, and then we'll moderate that. You can also put your questions or comments in the chat as we go. That is totally fine as well. And there'll be plenty of time for questions and comments after John's presentation. And then if you have the chance, we always appreciate just a note in the chat of your name and where you're from and which church you're from. That helps us a great deal with our reporting. So without further ado, I would love to get started. Today we have the Executive Director of ENCORE Ministry, John Rivas, joining us. John has previously served as Senior Donor Legacy Planning Advisor at the Gideons International, where he helped individuals and families navigate legacy and philanthropic decisions through their wills, trusts, and estates. He's collaborated with estate planning attorneys, financial advisors, and other professionals, raising more than $20 million in current and legacy gifts for the Gideons International since 2020. John has done extensive work with the Texas Methodist Foundation, the Florida United Methodist Children's Home, as well as Director of Family Philanthropy at Discipleship Ministries, the United Methodist Foundation. He's a certified fundraising executive, and he's earned his master's degree in philanthropy and development from LaGrange College in religious education from Nazarene Theological Seminary. John, thanks so much for being here. There's too many philanthropic and philanthropy words in there.
That's all right. That's good. Thank you. It's good to be here with you all today. I just want to begin by thanking you for being here, being a part of this. And I just really want to start with the word legacy. You know, many times when you hear the word legacy, it's something that you would think either involves one of two things or both. It's what you leave, you know, the things that you leave, or it's end of life. And those things are important. And yes, that's a part of legacy. But really what we're going to talk about is, what does it mean to live out a legacy while you're still alive? And the scriptural basis that for this conversation about living a legacy is really found in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6. And just a portion of that scripture says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be," or be also. And if we look at that scripture, it talks about how everything that we have or that we own will someday be gone. You know, the tangible things will be gone. The things that we leave will be gone. The things that are stored up in the attic that can decay will eventually be gone. And so what is going to live on for generation to generation? That's what really counts. So that includes not just the things that we leave, but also who we are and our own stories and our values, the important traits and the core values that we have that live from generation to generation. And I've made it a practice, made it a part of who I am to study families. Because quite frankly, I have seen way too many families go in to either a family business, a ranch, a farm for multi generations, and then um, the children or the grandchildren want to have nothing to do with the business, the farm, the ranch, or the whatever. Or in another case, other cases where whether it's $1,000 or $20 million, it's left from one generation to the other. Statistics say it doesn't matter whether you live in China or Russia or the United States or South America somewhere, that by the third generation, 9 out of 10 families are not successful in sustaining whatever is left. Not because there's plenty of expertise in preparing those things, but because the values are not passed from one generation to another. So the question needs to be asked is if everything we own, everything who we are belongs to God, how does it change the way we live? Does it influence the way we live with the understanding that everything that what is in our heart, what is in our story, is what's going to outlive us, not only now, but 50 years from now or 100 years from now? Christy, go ahead and change the slide. So since I have the PowerPoint, I get to brag on these two little ones. These are my grandchildren. The one is Rowan, 4, and Reese, who is turning 1 in 2 days. These, I think of Reese and I think of Rowan, and I think of how am I going to be remembered in their life? What do I want them to be remembered by? Their Mimi and their Pop-Up. What is it about us that I want to leave them? And then when they grow up and they get to an age and they have grandchildren, what will they say about their Mimi and Pop-Up? That is what's vital, and that is what I think about as I go about living a legacy. Go ahead in the next slide. See, I'm going to go and I'm going to visit Reese and for his first birthday in Rowan, and whenever we go up to their doorstep, and they happen to live in Washington D.C. They have a little Ring doorbell camera, and there's a monitor inside the house, and they can see those little Rowan can see us coming and can hear our footsteps as we're coming up the footsteps. And I hear him inside the house, and he's scampering around saying, Mimi's here, Mimi's here. I can't wait to see me. You're not saying Pop-Up, but he's saying Mimi. And it's like we open the door, and I feel like an Olympian sometimes, where I'm getting the gold medal placed around my neck, because that's the way that grandchildren, I've never felt it before until I had grandchildren. They make us feel like heroes. And yet, underneath what they don't see are all those bricks: the desire, passion, focus, effort, training, the failures, the hard work, the blood, sweat, and tears. All of those bricks that were laid to where what they see, what Rowan and Reese see in me, and what your grandchildren or your great grandchildren see of you today, they don't see the things that built you into who you are. And do they deserve to know that story? Well, I believe they do. That each one of us have a unique and lasting story. I did not have the opportunity to ever meet my great grandfather or my great great grandfather, but I know where they're buried. I know where their gravestones are, and I know the year that they were born, even the day that they were born, and I know the day and the year that they died. But that dash in between, I so much want to know what that dash represents in their life. What went on in that dash? My great great grandfather was born a friend, a Quaker, but he became a circuit riding Methodist preacher in Minnesota who had 26 charges in 10 years and moved to the panhandle of Texas and uprooted his 10 children and moved from Minnesota to Texas. What motivated him to do that? And eventually changed his denomination again. And what went into all those decisions? I just know that there are stories there that I would love to know. And your great great grandchildren, 100 years from now, deserve to know those bricks, that what they don't see, but they deserve to know. The next slide. Now, what I'd love for you to do is there at your desk or wherever you're at, get out a little piece of paper, if you don't mind, and write at the top of the piece of the paper what matters in large letter. What matters at the top? And I'd love for you to take just a few minutes to jot down a number of things, 5 to 10 things that come to your mind when you ask yourself the question, what matters to me? Just take a few minutes right now and do that for me. What really matters to me? Have you got those few things in mind? Let's go to the next slide. Now, next to that word, those 5 or 10 words that you listed, what does that word mean to you? It could be faith or family or hard work or perseverance. What does that word mean to you? Then how did you learn it? Who did you learn it from? How did you learn it? And have you seen it in action? Jot down a few thoughts about those now on that piece of paper, if you don't mind. What that word means to you. Who did you learn it from? How did you learn it? And how have you seen it in action in your own life? I work a lot with families and intergenerationally with families from Gen 1, Gen 2s, Gen 3s, sometimes even Gen 4s, but usually with 3 generations. And I do this exercise with many, many people. And it comes to mind certain childhood memories that people have, whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a Sunday school teacher, a grandmother, a parent. And there's always something about that person that instilled something in you. And who would that person be, and what did you observe and learn from them? And how is it interpreted in your life? Next slide, Kristen. Now, the next set of questions is, who knows your list? Those 5 or 10 things, or even 15, those things that you have listed, who knows those things on your list? And who knows the stories behind the list? And are your lists and stories written down? And how can you share your list and stories with future generations to come? How can you memorialize those things that are so important that make you who you are? And how do you communicate that to those that follow you? That's so vital and so important. In fact, if there was a study recently done by Alliance to Gen Xers and to Gen Zs, and you know what comes out on top as to what they look forward to is not the money in their inheritance. They value the stories more than anything. Those generations that follow us want to know the stories of those that came before them. It's that valuable. That's what living a legacy is all about. Next slide. So living a legacy really involves 3 different pedestals on a stool. One is preparing your wealth, whatever that is, those things that go beyond the checkbook for your family. How are you preparing, and how have you prepared that wealth for your family? We do that through financial planning, financial advisor. We go to them and seek their advice. There's plenty of it to go around. We take advantage of estate planning attorneys to help us with our will or a trust or other kinds of instruments. There's plenty of expertise in that. But the second stool is preparing your family for your wealth. And I'm not going to define wealth. It's what is it you have done to prepare your family for your wealth? So some of the ways that I want to just mention that go beyond the checkbook that's important is, when was the last time you all had, each one of us have visited our will or our trust? I'll have to tell you, I'm going through that this week. My wife's mother fell, and we have no idea where her important papers are. We don't even know who her attorney is. She has not shared anything with my wife, her daughter, or her son. So they are scrambling. And it is really important to keep those details in the forefront to those who are important, because she's not at this point able to make decisions for herself, like the type of insurance she has, the the bills that need to be paid, all of those things. That's important. And after you're gone, how will they know? And that's through keeping an updated will or a trust. And I'm going to assume that some of us have a 401k, a traditional IRA, or a 403b, and we've reached that age of 73 where it's called a required minimum distribution, or 70.5 where a qualified charitable donation has to be made or can be made. Well, those can be made to pay your tithe or your charity and not pay taxes, to circumvent taxes on those distributions through a required minimum distribution or through a qualified charitable donation, through qualified charities and churches. And if you didn't know about that, I'm a resource for helping make that happen. Then thirdly, I just want to mention the idea, if you don't know about it, of how if you're concerned about having enough, a charitable gift annuity or a charitable remainder unit trust are two vehicles where you can place, for instance, a traditional IRA where you've not needed the money and you're eventually it's going to go to your heirs, but something happens, the IRS wants their money, wants the taxes. And so it could be a tax bomb for those that after you left, that your children. For instance, I have a daughter who is a teacher and her husband's a teacher. And in my traditional IRA, it's just going to continue to grow. But when I pass and I want to take care of them, so I'm going to leave it to them, that IRA, that could be a tax bomb because the requirement for them to take the distribution, they have to take it and they have no choice. And it adds to their tax liability. So it goes in with into their earned income. So there is a way to circumvent that through a chair remainder unit trust by placing that IRA and stretching out those distributions so that the tax liability is not nearly as bad as what it could be if it was just left to them, or other non-cash assets like a house or land or other kinds of things that are not cash are left that have a highly appreciated value. You bought it years ago and it's worth a certain amount. You can circumvent the capital gains taxes by doing one or both of these things. So if you'd like to know more about them, you let me know and I will be happy to help you. Next slide. I think that's it. So I would love and invite any questions that you might have. If not, if you don't have any, then that's fine. But I'm here as a resource for you, especially when it comes to telling your story and leaving your legacy through leaving your values, not just your valuables, and that process together as a family.
Thanks so much, John. I'll let you guys process that a minute. Think about if you have any questions. This is a great opportunity just to talk about, maybe it's not something that you're dealing with particularly, but someone in your congregation or a family member or a neighbor that may consistently give you some of the same questions or pushback sometimes as far as getting some of this important work done. I am going to take the opportunity while you process to reintroduce Grace Smith, who is at Age Well. They have a new program out that I wanted her to be able to tell you all about. Well, I just found out about it, I think, yesterday. So it's hot off the press, I believe. Grace, feel free to chat about that for a second.
Christy, thank you so much. And I've really enjoyed this webinar, John, and it's a lot of good food for thought, thinking about our families and the legacy we want to live. One of the things that AgeWell Middle Tennessee has been concerned about for several years now is the growing numbers of older adults who are facing financial insecurity. It's estimated that 1 out of every 3 older adults across the country don't have enough money to meet their basic needs because the cost of housing, healthcare, transportation, food have all been going up, and it's really difficult to live on a fixed income. And locally here in Nashville, Metro Social Services released their community needs evaluation in 2022, which actually revealed that more than half of older Nashvillians are experiencing livable income poverty. They don't have enough money to make ends meet. And so for the past year and a half, AgeWell has been working, thanks to a seed grant from Vine Street Christian Church. We were able to partner with Vanderbilt and do a series of focus groups with older adults in Nashville. We also organized a coalition of government, faith community, and nonprofit partners to really dive into this issue and figure out what type of solution could help improve the system of support for older adults who are struggling financially. And so what came out of that process is a new collaborative initiative involving 5 nonprofits. So AgeWell Middle Tennessee, United Way of Greater Nashville, 50 Forward, NeedLink Nashville, and the Tennessee Justice Center. We are working as a collaborative using a shared data system that's just available to our partners to make it easier for older adults to access free financial counseling through Nashville's Financial Empowerment Center, and also benefit enrollment assistance. One of the things we were shocked to learn is that the National Council on Aging estimates that every year there's $30 billion in available benefit programs like SNAP for food or Medicare savings programs, Medicare Part D extra help, and LIHEAP that can help people stretch their incomes if they qualify. And so we knew an important component of this was to help people apply, figure out if they might qualify for those benefits, and then receive assistance in applying for those programs. So 3 of our nonprofits are doing benefit enrollment assistance, and that also includes rent and utility assistance. So together, we are creating a network, and the program is called Reset. I'm happy to share the brochure, Christy, if you'd like to share it with your network, where any older adult, anyone 50 and older, living in Nashville, Davidson County can now access these services thanks to grant support. So everything is free. And you can receive the financial counseling, which is confidential. You can receive benefit enrollment assistance. And then the other component is if you need connection to organizations that help with other income opportunities, like a part-time job or home sharing, or getting counseling about your home equity and whether or not it makes sense to tap into that for some extra income. Those are services that are available through the Reset program. So, you know, John has been talking to us about individuals that have resources to share and want to think about their legacy. We're really talking about individuals that for whatever reason, don't have enough resources to live on, and they're finding it very difficult to make ends meet. So that's what the Reset program was designed to address. And we'd love for you to help share information with anyone in your congregations or in your network. Again, anyone 50 and older in Nashville can take advantage of the services now through our nonprofit network.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful information. And as always, I suspect once you show how much needed this is, then we'll be able to spread that further, hopefully, with additional funding to other parts of the state and beyond, actually. So, Grace makes a great point. There's really kind of two different ends of the spectrum that we've talked about today. And just to kind of bridge those together, there's planning that happens with finances, but there's also planning that happens outside of finances. And so in the aging community, we try really hard to group those together however we can, so that when people are focused on either financial decisions or legal decisions, that they can go ahead and blend all those together, because so many things are kind of threaded together when we talk about planning and end of life, but not even end of life for next week. All of that really comes together. So as we all go about our daily work, remembering that there are all sorts of opportunities at all ends of the spectrum that we can help our congregations and people in our neighborhoods just be ready. And that includes being ready for disasters and things like that. So readiness is really key. And I appreciate both of y'all being here to tell us about both sides of the spectrum. Does anyone else have any comments, any experience trying to guide your congregation or, friends or family with some of this information that you'd like to share?
Yes, I'm Central Edwin from Uganda. Thank you for allowing me joining this. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Yes, Madam Wiki, I'm Central Edwin from Uganda. Thank you for making me part of this conversation. So I was inquiring that I have a group of people here in Uganda who are needy, like old people who have been left, who have been sent out of the land. So they need some hope, like gospel to them so that they still have hope, and just helping them get like a camp where they can live. So just guide me.
Well, thanks so much for joining us again. It's always a blessing to us to know that our work has traveled as far as Uganda. And I have your email, so I'll reach out after and we can talk a little bit, set aside session and talk a little bit about what kind of needs you're seeing and how we can get you directed to the right organizations that can help support you.
Okay, thank you, Madam. Let me
You're
following.
absolutely.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We will look forward to seeing you next month. We're going to be myself and we'll have Peter and Becky Oyer on, who will help us with talking about care coordination in the church and congregation. So I'm excited about that, a bridge between health and faith. So it should be a good one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Stephanie?
Thank you all.
Stephanie? Hello?
Hey,
Oh, I mean, Christina.
either one.
This is
Stephanie's
Arnita.
here too.
Oh, okay. I was wanting to get the information again about the program for seniors that Grace talked about.
Yes, it's called Reset.
Reset.
And yes, and Grace will send me a link, I'm sure, and I will make sure that gets out to you. And I've got your email, so I'll email that to you directly just to make sure you get it, but we'll include that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for attending.
Thank you.